Hi guys, welcome back to Uzo's Tribe, my YouTube channel where I talk about love, life, career, faith and everything in between. My name is Rita Uzoma Okolo and today we will be discussing your Chevening leadership essay. So I know everybody must be saying, oh, why is it just Chevening? For now, the Chevening application period is open, so I know a lot of people will be requiring tips on how to write their essays, on how to go about several things, and this is the best opportunity to make this information available to them or bring this information to their fingertips. So bear with me, I will post other content, that is not Chevening, but for now, I'm going to focus on, for at least the next 2 weeks until the application period is over, I will be focusing on how to write your Chevening essays. And today we'll be discussing the leadership essay. In my first video on the Chevening series, I had mentioned what is required to write your leadership essay. So today I'll be going into greater detail on how best to write this essay. Chevening is looking for leaders, people. As usual, I'm going to post the question so that you have like an idea of the question. I'm going to put the question while I'm editing the video. Chevening is basically looking for influencers, people, change makers, people who have held leadership positions or taken initiative in their community, in their society, in their small niche, in their sphere, and caused impact through this initiative. So there is a popular assumption that until you found an NGO, like until you establish or register a non-profit organization, you cannot win the Chevening scholarship. This is a very fallacious position. You don't need to have established an NGO, you don't need to have founded anything. All you need is to have actually exhibited leadership qualities or leadership skills in any sphere. It could be in an office, it could be as a volunteer in an NGO, it could be an initiative you just took to cause impact on your own. Really, it doesn't have to be a non-profit or an NGO. Okay, so what does this essay require you to do? Like I always say, it's supposed to have an introduction, a body and a conclusion. Now your body, typically should have about 3 examples. 3 examples, and then you have an introduction and a conclusion. So to start your introduction, a definition of leadership is not necessary. I mean, you can say what leadership means to you very briefly in like a line or at most 2 lines, but it's not exactly required for this, because they're not asking you to define leadership. They're not even asking you what leadership means to you. They're just asking you to show that you're somebody who has exhibited leadership skills, and that you're somebody of influence. You're somebody that can actually influence other people to follow you and do things that cause impact in society. So exactly what it is you want to show is you want to bring in examples. How old your example should be depends. I feel like if you've graduated for more than 5 to 8 years, you have to have done something else aside like your school examples. But if you feel like your school examples are very good, like you really caused a great impact, or you feel like the impact you started in school is still continuing. So for example, let's say while I was in the University of Nigeria, because I attended the University of Nigeria. So let's say while I was in the University of Nigeria, I was able to change the SUG constitution, for instance, to reflect more participation for female students in like student government, right? How will I reflect this in my essay?
First of all, I'll begin with the situation I noticed, the task, the action, the result, and then the report. I will reflect this using the STAR approach. The first thing I would do is say something like, I have observed, or sometime in 2020, for instance, say I graduated 2020, okay? Sometime in 2020, as a student of the University of Nigeria, I observed that female students, displayed apathy towards leadership in the student union government. So what I just described is the situation. Female students do not participate in student union government or politics in the student union government because, their interests are not prioritized, their concerns are not prioritized, because they do not have representatives in the student union government. Why? Because the constitution of the SUG is defective, allowing for only males to occupy positions in the SUG. Now I'm going to move on to my task. Of course, you're not going to use these many words. You're going to keep your words concise, okay? I'm just giving an example off the top of my head. So use your own language. So what's my task? I sought to change the narrative by proposing and amending the defective constitution to reflect gender equality or gender parity. Okay, so this is your task. You want to change status quo and ensure that there's gender equality. You're allowing most female participation in the SUG or in politics in school. Now, your action, how did you go about this? So I have answered my when. It's sometime in 2020 at the University of Nigeria, right? Using the STAR approach. So you see that the STAR approach works hand in hand with your when, what, why, who, where questions. So in 2020, at the University of Nigeria, my when has been answered. What happened? I observed so and so with female students. That's my situation or my problem statement. Okay. Now, since I have observed this, what do I need to do about it? What's the task before me? The task before me is I need to ensure that this constitution is amended to reflect gender equality or gender parity principles, because that's what I'm trying to achieve at the end of the day, right? Exactly. Now, what will be my action? How do you reflect your action? You could say something like, I proposed an amendment of this the defective constitution and invited other collaborators like other executives of the student union government, lecturers, and other policymakers, in the school or around the state or whatever, together, or instead of saying together, actually, because you're supposed to highlight what you did. So you could say, I proposed this amendment, I drafted or I redrafted the offending positions to reflect gender parity principle, and I also included provisions for 5 new slots for female students specifically, to give them the opportunity to participate in the student government. That is your action. That is what you did. You can elaborate on this, but keep your writing concise and then go straight to your report. What is the result, rather? When you did this, you noticed the situation, you had a task in front of you, you took action on this task. What was the result? The result is that at the last SUG election in 2021, for instance, there were 20% more female participants in the SUG elections. So now that you've told them that the result is that there were more female participants in the elections, there were more females, gained access and gained entry into political seats, or gained access to political seats in the SUG government. You can now give us the result of this. What was the result? What was the report, rather? The report is that as a result of this, you undertook a survey, and a lot of female students, were more in tune. There was more participation. They were happy because now their welfare was prioritized in the SUG. Their concerns were now prioritized and attended to because they had representatives in the student government. Now that is your report or the lesson, as a result of everything you've done. Now, if you want to bring your blast from the past, in like your past experience, in line with like your present situation, especially if the experience is so far, but that's like one of the best things you've done and one of your best examples, you could find like a continuing factor. So are they still using that constitution now in the school? What is the effect at this present day in the school? You could say since then, there has never been any more complaints from female students about their welfare being pushed to the side. You could say right now, the school has known its highest, it has hit a record level of female participation in politics as a result of that, your constitution of some years ago. So this is just one example out of a plethora of examples that you can give to highlight, leadership qualities that you have, or to highlight like leadership activities or things you've done as a leader. I'm struggling with words today. Things you have done as a leader. Now, to go further, a lot of people have asked me, oh, what if my former experiences are not in line with what I want to do now? Say for instance, I've been working with NGOs in human rights and all that, but now I want to go into, say, public health. Or before I used to do like human rights and everything, and now I want to do, say, commercial law. That's what I want to go and study. No problem. Your leadership examples can still reflect your experiences, even if they are not in the area in which you want to study now. However, you have to ensure that in your career plan essay and you're studying in the UK essay, you highlight exactly why it is you want to switch careers or you want to switch to this new course of study. So why are you not furthering in human rights, since that is where your experience lies? What is making you move? So you're studying in the UK essay, you could say stuff like, oh, I have past experience with human rights, and while that is applaudable work I have done so far, I suddenly gained access into the field of intellectual property law, for instance, or into the field of public policy, and I've observed the deficiency in, let's say, access to healthcare, or the rife nature of intellectual property theft in present day Nigeria. And I now seek, I have suddenly, my passion has been ignited in this area, and now I seek further study to open my eyes more in this area and help me change status quo. You could also say, oh, I'm already doing one or two things. Maybe I'm already volunteering with an intellectual property organization or something. There's always a way to link it. So after writing your body, of course, you use the same STAR principle for your two other examples. If you decide you want to give only two examples, that's fine, as long as they are really, really strong examples. When you're done with your examples, what do you do in your conclusion? It's quite simple. Okay, in your conclusion, you find a way to tie it all together. Just imagine that there is a box and you have put like a very beautiful present in it. Your conclusion is your opportunity to get the best wrapping paper, the best wrapping ribbons, and make it look really amazing. Okay, so your conclusion, you want to look for something that the UK is doing in your country in that subject area that you want to study in, and then match it, tie it all together, okay, to your past experience and your future plans, of course, mentioning Chevening. So you want to say something like, yes, Chevening is a global platform that emphasizes leadership. And while I am already a leader in my community, I require this platform to become a global leader, or to expand the sphere of my impact to the global hemisphere or something like that. You could also say, and this is only possible when you have gone to the UK, imbibed the UK values on leadership, and come back here to replicate these values. So essentially, you're tying it up by saying, oh, I want to go and study with Chevening because it's a leadership that recognizes global leaders. And while I'm already doing great on my level, I require the scholarship to improve the work I already do. And of course, to tie my work to an area, that the UK is already funding, or one of the impact or thematic areas that the UK is already focused on in my country. So that when I come back, I will do even bigger work, based off of the network I would have gained, network of leaders I would have gained through the Chevening body or alumni or opportunity. So in other words, you're basically saying, oh, please, give me this opportunity, because if not for you people, I will meet the people, necessary people I'm supposed to meet, other global leaders. And of course, make sure you tie it to a thematic area, or try to tie it to a thematic area that Chevening is already doing in your country. For instance, when I was writing my essay on human rights, I realized that just some months before I wrote my essay and submitted, Chevening had donated, not Chevening, I'm sorry, the UK Prime Minister had donated about 3 billion naira to education, female or girl child education in northern Nigeria. This aligned perfectly with my interest area. Like I'm already working on like female education, economic inclusion, financial independence. So for me, this was like the perfect example to give. So you see the reason why you have to do a lot of research. That is why I keep emphasizing research all the time. Don't get tired of researching. Research what the UK is doing in your country. Research, the plethora of research on your schools, research on everything. Finally, I just want to tell you, there's some don'ts, okay? There's some don'ts. Don't use words that would obfuscate the meaning of what it is you're trying to pass across. Don't use ambiguous words just because you think they sound smart or big. Be very clear. Sometimes simple does it, be very clear. I recently read an essay where the person was, in first paragraph, the person was already doing I can't even remember the words the person was using, but I could not even make sense of that paragraph. Why? Because he was using so many big words. It's not that I don't know the meaning of the words, but the context in which those words were used did not flow. It did not follow. So avoid the temptation to want to sound really smart and intelligent. Of course, you can use sophisticated formal language, but also make sure that they communicate the exact thing it is you want to communicate, okay? Also avoid using too many words. If you can write as concisely as possible, write as concisely as possible. Use your 500 words well. Also, yes, this is something, please also try to ensure that you fill your application form very carefully. In my next video, I'll be highlighting better on this part. Please, guys, take care, be very meticulous, be very detailed when filling your application form. There are 3 sifting stages for Chevening. The first stage happens sometime in December, and this is where they sift, they do the eligibility screening. So a lot of qualified candidates who did not just take time to fill in their application form, like their work experience, educational qualification and all that, will lose out at this stage. Why? Because you didn't take your time to detailedly fill your application form. So while I emphasize on the essays, your application form is almost, if not just as important as your essays. Take your time, please, guys. So I'll be making a video. My next video would basically highlight how to fill your application form, how to calculate your work hours, what to do and what not to do on your application form, the documents you require at this stage and what you do not require. But for now, please focus on writing your essays. Also, I just wanted to quickly mention that a lot of people have reached out to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, even some in my email and on YouTube about reviewing your essays. I'm so sorry. I like to do a thorough work when I review essays, so I have picked a couple of people. On the first week, I picked I don't want to use the word mentees, but I picked my the people whose essays I'll be reviewing way early on in the application process, and as such I've been very busy with their own essays. I can't take on more essays at this time, so instead of asking me if I can review your essays, because I cannot for now, I would really appreciate it if you just leave your questions in the comments. Engage with my video, leave your questions in the comments, and I will definitely respond to them. I will respond to every single question in the comments. You will get a response from me way faster. Please just leave your questions in the comments. Try and share my video with your friends, with everyone who is applying for the Chevening opportunity. Like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.